we are joined by the Head of ALI's Compliance and Risk, Julianne McKnight, and also the National Sales Manager, Gabrielle Moscati, for informative webinar that will kick off, including key topics on Addon Insurance, hawking, prohibitions, and duty to take responsible care. It is all a part of the FBAA Upskilling series, delving into broker compliance in the financial services world. The webinar has been created so you do get a better understanding of recent changes and how they may affect you and your business. As I said earlier, though, if you do wish to ask any questions during today's presentation, please do pop them down into the chat box, as some of you have already done. And Rakib, good afternoon to you too. So we do see them live, and I will be able to address them as they go. As I said, those questions don't just have to be for ALI. If you have any of the FBAA, you can throw them in there as well. Please note, though, that as we have said this morning, we do tend to sometimes experience some issues with the internet and the whole wide world jumping on board to webinars. So please bear with us if anything does happen. Either way, there will be a recording of this session that will go up onto the FBAA's YouTube channel, and you'll be able to access it there. And at the end of today's session, you will access your CPD code for the FBAA. So guys, I'm going to pass you over now to Julianne and Gabrielle before any other issues happen with the World Wide Web that's out there. So Jules, thanks for joining us this morning. I'm going to head over now to you and Gabrielle.
While Jules is getting our presentation up, I will just say welcome and thank you for joining us today. For those of you who don't know ALI, our mission is to protect Australian home and property buyers. And we've been doing that for 18 years, solely through the broker channel. And over those years, brokers have had a life-changing impact on thousands of customers. Now, you're no doubt aware that there have been a number of recent regulatory changes, and we feel that it's really important that you not only understand them and feel comfortable with them, but also understand how, if at all, they're going to impact you. So for those of you that are not familiar with our product, My Protection Plan, before I hand over to Jules, who is going to take you through all the meaty stuff about compliance, I will just briefly run you through our product. Here comes a slide. There it is. So MPP is designed for those that have a loan and are seeking financial protection against death, terminal illness, trauma, and specified injury. Benefits are paid to the client and can be used for any purpose. The client selects the sum insured for the death benefit between $100,000 and $1 million, and the trauma benefit is 30% of that death benefit. The first 30 days are complimentary, and the premium is paid monthly thereafter. The customer is never in a lock-in situation, and so we don't have customers with post-sale blues. So that is the product in brief. I'll now hand you over to Jules.
I am having technical issues, everyone.
It must be the internet in Queensland. I think that you can't have all the benefits of the great weather and the beaches, so you don't have as good an internet.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes. Yep, we can hear you, Jules.
Hey, fantastic. I'm so sorry, guys. It's all my internet connection. I take full responsibility for it. We're conscious that some of you may already be authorised with ALI and some of you may not be. So I just want to cover off a couple of things. Brokers are authorised by us to provide general advice, and what this means is that they don't take the client's personal circumstances into consideration. So that's the client's personal objectives, their financial situation, or their needs when they're offering My Protection Plan. So they don't provide personal advice like a financial advisor or a financial planner does. The model that we and our brokers use has been subject to legal advice, separately sought and gained from independent legal firms by ourselves, ALI Group, by our insurer, which is Zurich Australia Limited, to ensure that we meet the requirements under law. Separately, we've met with ASIC on a number of occasions and continue to do so. And we openly discuss our approach and our model, and they've not raised any concerns with our model at all. So I just wanted to cover that off with you. I just need this to change screens. And it's, yes. Okay, so why the recent changes? I think that for all of you, you would have heard about the little thing called the Hayne Royal Commission. So the Royal Commission into Misconduct in the Banking, Superannuation and Financial Services industry. There's been lots of change to navigate over the past months. And again, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. And we can thank the Hayne Royal Commission for that. The recommendations from that commission really focused on conduct that was below community standards. So things like pressure selling, forcing a customer or pressuring a customer into taking a product, and poor consumer outcomes where people were sold policies that weren't suitable for them or policies that they couldn't claim on. So first up, we're going to focus on a couple of those recommendations in particular, the deferred sales model for add-on insurance products and the strengthening of the hawking prohibitions. There's two main concepts relating to this first topic. The first one is an add-on insurance product. So what's that? It manages financial risk relating to the principal product. So in your case, we're talking about the loan. The deferred sales model, which means is something which means that the add-on insurance product can't be offered or sold for 4 days. Thankfully for ALI Group and for our authorised brokers, and most importantly for our customers, Australian consumers, MPP isn't classified as add-on insurance because it insures their life. It doesn't manage the financial risk of them entering indirectly into their loan. So that means to offer ALI MPP, there's no requirement for the deferred sales period of 4 days. Hawking prohibitions are not new to us. Previously, life insurance was not covered, but with the changes, it now is. Hawking is the selling or offering of a product via unsolicited contact. And unsolicited contact is any real-time interaction where the customer has not previously provided their consent. Now, this concept of real-time interaction, if you think telephone calls and face-to-face meetings, those are real-time interactions where there is an expectation of a response and it's like a discussion. A customer must provide their consent and it's got to be clear and positive, and it can actually relate to more than one product. So your customers approach you to help them get a loan, and that's either to buy a property or it could be to refinance an existing debt. And that consent extends to MPP, given it's so closely related to the home loan assistance that's provided by their broker. In fact, there's an expectation that mortgage brokers will have a conversation about risk with their clients. The offer of MPP is within reasonable scope. This is also supported by recent independent research that we commissioned, but I'll leave Gabrielle to tell you more about that shortly. So what does this mean for talking to your customers about MPP? So long as you're authorised by ALI, you can discuss risk and offer MPP as a potential solution. This means that you can offer a full service solution to your customers, and MPP is part of the services that you offer. The other thing you need to remember is that if a customer withdraws their consent, for instance, they say that they don't want to hear about life insurance, then any offer and any discussion must be stopped. So we'll move on to a couple of other things, DDO and TMD. So DDO is the design and distribution obligations, and TMD is a target market determination. A product issuer under the DDO laws must take care when they're designing a product to ensure that it fits the target market. And they have to issue a target market determination, or a TMD, that's accessible by the public. In the case of MPP, the product issuer for us is our insurer, Zurich. And so the TMD has been created by them with our input, and the TMD is available on ALI's website. So it's publicly accessible, which means our authorised brokers don't need to do anything different. So for DDO and TMD, it has no impact on our brokers at all. Another new term is, and this one's a long one, the duty to take reasonable care not to make misrepresentation to the insurer. This one relates to what the customer must do not the product issuer, so not our insurer, and not the person offering the product, so not the broker and not ALI. Previous to this, customers did have a duty. They were required to provide accurate and complete information when they were making application for insurance. Now what they have to do is they have to take reasonable care not to make a misrepresentation. So the onus has moved somewhat from the customer needing to provide all of the relevant information to them now needing to provide honest answers to any questions that they're asked. We've updated the information in our product disclosure statement for My Protection Plan, and there's nothing else that ALI or our authorised brokers need to do with regards to that. One that you will be quite familiar with is best interest duty, and I did note down here that I hesitate to mention it because you're probably sick of hearing about the term of BID. In relation to credit assistance, I know it means you have to act in your customer's best interests. With financial services, it applies to personal advice only. So anyone who is providing personal advice must ensure that the advice meets their customers' objectives, their financial situation, and their needs. In the case of our authorised brokers offering MPP to clients, our authorisation, as I said earlier, extends to general advice only. So this means that even though you will still put your customers' interests above your own, we know that brokers do that, BID doesn't apply to any general advice you give your customer about MPP. So now I'm going to throw back to Gabrielle and she can finish off the session for us.
Look, that technology worked. Thank you, Jules. And hopefully that was enlightening for you. Jules, if you can move on to the next slide, please. At ALI, we've always been really focused on providing good customer outcomes and ensuring that we and our authorised reps meet all of our compliance obligations. So we're very pleased that we've not needed to make any significant changes. So we just took you through a lot of detail. And in the end, what we're really saying to you is that if you're authorised with us, the process that you followed continues because you are getting consent to offer loan protection if you're authorised with us as part of the consent that you're getting to discuss the loan. And the only real difference is that if the customer withdraws that consent at any time, you need to stop. Now that really isn't a difference, even though I've said it's a difference, because if someone had asked you previously or said to you, I'm not interested, you would have stopped in any case. So a quick reminder of what our existing compliance obligations are. But that said, our BDMs are there to assist. So if anybody is in any doubt, please talk to your BDM. So as Jules mentioned, our brokers are not authorised to provide personal advice. The process is that they need to hand an FSG or email an FSG and a PDS to their clients very early in the process, and certainly before they discuss MPP. As they're not authorised to give personal advice, they need to let their customer know that. And they need to do that verbally, which is what we call a general advice warning. And all of our documentation supports that and includes that, including the fact that if the customer decides to go ahead, then they have a declaration that they sign saying that they understand that they were not given personal advice, that it was only general advice. The broker uses a loan amount as a basis for the first quote that they give, but the client decides on the final amount of cover. So why offer protection to your clients? Now, one really compelling reason is because that research shows that many customers expect it. As Jules mentioned a bit earlier, 98% of the clients we surveyed said that it was a reasonable thing to do. Many of our claimants mentioned that if their broker had not alerted them to the availability of our product, they wouldn't have put anything into place at all. Brokers tell us that they feel that it demonstrates that they've got their customers' best interests at heart. They alert them to the opportunity to take MPP, and the customer can decide whether they want to put it in place or not. Another reason is because we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's around the corner. So, for example, in 2020, 2021, 64% of the claims that we paid were for people under the age of 45. Now, that surprises a lot of people, but 64%, so that's a lot of claims. 76% of our trauma claims were for cancer. 53% were for males. And sadly, the youngest claimant was only 22 years old. So it's really easy to imagine the difference to someone's life a payment like the one on this slide can make. You know, many claimants tell us that the payment reduces their financial pressures and allows them to focus on getting better. They can take some time off work. And finally, while customer care is the most common reasons that brokers give for offering MPP, there is also a good financial incentive. Preparing the quote and having a compliant conversation only takes about 10 minutes and can be a really good way to add to your revenue. So overall, it's really pleasing to see that authorised brokers can continue to discuss risk and offer protection in a simple and compliant way, and also can add to their income stream by doing that. So it's time for questions, I think.
It's always that moment that I try and remind myself how to turn my camera back on after such a great session, guys. So as I said earlier, if you do have any questions, pop them down into the Q&A box or into the chat box located at the bottom of your screen. We are able to provide these live to you. Nicholas obviously followed the instructions on that one and asked if you'll get the presentation. For all in the room, you will get a copy of today's presentation as well, emailed to you after the session. As we also said, it'll be available on YouTube, on the FBAA's YouTube channel. So if there is anybody else with any other questions out there, please let us know. We are more than happy to answer those for you now. But if not, I might kick things off. Gabrielle, how, or Julianne, whichever one's free to answer it, how do I get authorised with ALI Group to offer the MPP?
That's a really good question, Leanne. Given I'm off mute, I'll answer it. So the first thing that someone needs to do is get onto our website and register their interest. So they will then be contacted by an onboarding specialist. They'll have a chat to make sure that MPP is something that really suits them and their business. And then the training process is an online module. So the online module is about product and it's about compliance. And that's about half an hour, 45 minutes long. And then there's a face-to-face session with the BDM. And that is really focused on putting it into the broker's business, making sure that we understand the broker's business and how this can complement them. And then after that, there's an ongoing relationship with the BDM. They're there to assist them. And there are annual compliance reviews that need to be done as well.
Perfect. David Hoa wishes to ask at the moment, do you have any printable flyers that they can include with information packs to his clients?
Do we? Well, we've got quite a few flyers, really good ones. Look at this. Lovely. So they're printable, they're emailable. We've even got this new cool thing where you've got a QR code that can take you straight to some more information. So yeah, we do.
Perfect. We've got an anonymous attendee. I always love anonymous. If I'm dealing with a commercial deal, is offering ALI still appropriate?
ALI is able to be offered to anyone with an eligible loan, and conveniently in our PDS, we actually have defined what an eligible loan is. So an eligible loan is a home loan, an investment property loan, a commercial loan, or an equity access loan.
Perfect. We always like
maybe. The only thing I kind of caveat that with is that you need to keep in mind the minimum and maximum coverage amounts, and if the client believes that that's going to work for them. So it's up to a maximum of $1 million per life.
Wow, and that's a huge amount of coverage though when you think about it at the end of the day, and you'd rather have them covered for something rather than nothing. I think that's something that a lot of people do need to sort of take into consideration. And look, I've said it openly before as well, if I didn't have my insurances in place in the last 18 months, I may have been up that wonderful creek without a wonderful paddle. So we've got on here from Anonymous again. I was previously a professional qualified financial planner. He's now a broker. Would previous activities prevent my appointment as a broker for ALI?
No. The only thing that when a broker applies to become authorised with ALI, we do actually have a look at their current authorisations with ASIC or under ASIC. And no, so long as there's no continuing authorisation there, then it shouldn't be a problem for us.
Perfect. Also, and this is one I know that I've crossed with the Queensland team recently, is there an age limit that they're not allowed to offer ALI's products to? So is there a demographic that perhaps can't have it offered straight to? And also with that as well, when it comes to medicals and things like that, do they need to be done up front?
Oh, sorry, Gabrielle, are you answering that or am I?
Okay, go for it.
Okay, thank you.
I'll take this one.
To be eligible for my protection plan, the client has to be between 18 and 59 years old. So yes, they can be over 50 as long as they're not over 59. And what was the second part of the question?
The second part of it as well with medicals and things like that, do they need to be done up front?
No, there's no medicals and no blood tests with our product. The way that it works is that there is a pre-existing condition exclusion. So if someone has suffered a medical condition or been treated for a medical condition, and the full definition is within our PDS over the past 5 years, then it will be excluded from their cover. Okay. So if someone, when a broker comes on and is going through the authorisation process, we provide training on all of that for them so that they understand.
Perfect.
And we did miss a question from Michael, and I'm going to say his surname wrong. I'm sorry, Michael. Theo Harris.
Yeah, that one's only just come through. I've got a couple just in front of that one, but we can go to Michael's first. What is the process of offering MPP to existing clients? Do you need to email or call them first?
This really comes down to that whole consent piece, Michael. So what you would be best to do is to email your clients, let them know that it is something that your existing clients, let them know that it is something that you can offer and arrange for them. And then you would need them to provide their consent for you to continue to have that conversation. So it could be that you say, look, let me know if you'd like a quote. And then if they reach out, then you can continue that conversation. It's a bit different with existing clients because the consent period lasts for a predetermined period, which is 6 weeks. So with a new client, you're well within that period when you're talking to them about their home loan. With an existing client, it's not that you can't rely on the consent they gave you 6 months or 12 months or 18 months ago when they took out their loan. So you would email them information.
Perfect. Matt Garcia would like to know if the cover is flexible.
I'll take that one. It's absolutely flexible. So the way that, to make it easy for the broker and the customer, the quote initially is given for the loan amount. But the customer can amend that to suit what their needs are or their budget. And we've got an online application system that easily calculates that. So the customer can say, well, what about you give me a quote for X or Y or Z? Alternatively, they can even say, look, I can afford to pay $100 a month. How much cover would that give me? And it's a very simple calculation.
Perfect. Ron Moore would like to know if ALI premium is taken out on an investment lend, would it make the premium tax deductible?
I can take that one if you like. We don't give tax advice. Not only do we give disclaimers everywhere, we can't give tax advice. But what I would say that in general, our product is not tax deductible, but neither are the claim receipts taxable. But we would suggest that someone goes to their accountant and gets their own advice.
Perfect. Also, from the sidelines as well, we were talking about the information being available in flyers that they can put into clients' packs. Can they put any information about the MPP in a newsletter and or on their websites? There's a lot of nodding going on there. So
100%, definitely. In fact, we kind of encourage brokers to put it on their website, because when a customer comes to them, we want the customer to know this is part of the process. So anything in writing is fine. And for example, it's really important that they understand that hawking doesn't cover emails, and it doesn't cover the web information, so they can put it in newsletters, they can put it on their website.
And we can actually provide that information to them. So if they're concerned about how they should word it or what they can say, we have templates, and we have a BDM team, obviously, that can help them with that as well.
Perfect. Michael Theo Harris is just clarifying his question regarding existing clients and consent. He'd also like to further that by saying, can he generate a quote and send it to them if their loan settled 18 months ago, just as an example?
If you are sending it via email, yes, you could do that. But I wouldn't be doing it verbally or face-to-face, because that would fall under offering the product, and without the client's prior consent, that would be a breach of the hawking prohibitions.
Perfect. But it is something, just so we can clarify around that point again, it is something that they can send.
Yeah, you can Australia Post mail it, you can email it to the client. So it comes down to that. Remember, I was talking about real-time interaction. So if it's, if you rang them up and said, hey, Leah, I know your loan's $300,000. Here's how much it would cost you for life insurance. That actually would be hawking. But if I mail that to you, not a problem.
And I think it's something to remind a lot of the brokers out there as well. And we touched on best interest earlier before. Because we do gain so much information up front from the clients, you would think it would be part of best interest, even if they've offered an insurance to them up front, that they get something to say that the client has said no to it or something like that, and just keep that on the file, just to say, hey, look, I did actually offer you a type of insurance up front, and they do have notes on their file to say we've offered it, but the client actually declined it at that point in time, just to keep somebody's little tushy covered. So we do like to make sure that we have done the right thing, and we do gain a lot of information as brokers up front, and we want to make sure that is done. Olga Espinia has asked the question, so she's just following up. Can she send a quote to a client by email if they have withdrawn consent?
Yes, you can still send it via email, but I guess ultimately you want to make sure that you're not harassing your client. That kind of just popped into my head. But yeah, under the hawking prohibitions, you can still email. So consent relates to that real-time interaction.
Perfect. Anonymous has come back again. I think we did touch on this before, but we just want to make sure, if the cover is flexible, can it be adjusted once the client takes out a policy? So if I took it out today for 700, can I adjust it into use time for $1 million?
Yes, cover can be adjusted at any time that the customer wants to do that. And in fact, although many of our policies have got 2 people on it, so it covers a husband and wife or 2 partners, they can have different levels of cover. So it's all about the customer, and they can change at any time.
So if in a sense, and we see this happen almost on a weekly basis, because everybody's great at being married, if a couple separates or divorces and something happens, is it a simple change to the policy to split that into one person's name, or is a new policy started? So one policy is cancelled, then a new policy has to be taken out.
You can actually, if you had a joint policy, so say it was my husband and myself and we separated, I could take him off the policy and just continue the policy in my name.
Perfect. Also, if MPP isn't an add-on insurance product, what type of products are add-on insurance?
The $1 million question. Does everybody remember consumer credit insurance, where the benefits were paid to the lender? So if something happened and I could no longer pay my loan, and it might have been a personal loan, the insurance would activate and it would pay out the lender. That is consumer credit insurance. That is a prime example of this. And part of the problem with consumer credit insurance was that quite often the premium was added to the loan amount. So it was capitalised. So people were paying interest on the premium amount as well. Our product, like I said, is life insurance, and it's vastly different from that in that the benefits are paid to the beneficiary or the policy owner. And they can do whatever they want with that. They can use it to pay down their loan, help them meet loan repayments, go on an overseas holiday if we don't have COVID, buy a new car, make renovations to their house if they have to deal with a new disability or something like that. So very, very different. And our premiums are not capitalised to the loan. That's not something that you can do. They're payable monthly, fortnightly, weekly, so the client can line them up with their pay cycle. And that means, as Gabrielle said earlier, with the flexibility of the product, if they're changing the cover amount either up or down, they're not paying a premium for something that they don't have anymore.
Fantastic. But guys, what would you say would be the target market for your product? So, we've got Anonymous saying to us at the moment, he partners with he or she partners with a financial planner, and noticed that not all clients go through with this type of offering. So where would you say the typical target market is for the ALI product?
That's a really good question, Leah. So you're absolutely right. Not everybody wants to go to a financial planner, and particularly young people buying their first homes. They're overwhelmed with everything that they're doing. They probably don't feel that there's a need yet. So our target market is generally first home buyers and potentially people under the age of 40 or 45, let's say, before they get complex needs and want to go and see a financial planner. So our target market is really young home buyers. And another reason for that is that demographic really doesn't know what they don't know. So they go to a broker for an education. And part of that is identifying that there could be some risks and taking out some protection. So that is the target market and the type of client most likely to take out our product.
Perfect. And Debbie Wilson's got a question, and I think it's the $10 million question that all brokers behind the scenes are sitting asking at the moment. What's the commission that the broker will achieve in selling an ALI product?
I'm going to pull out the exact figures because if I say them off the top of my head, there was a slide there on commissions, but I am going to find it.
Over the life of a policy, based on the average life period of a policy, yes, you get about $1,500 over the lifetime of the policy. But now I'm going to hand back to Gabrielle because she's got numbers.
Well, and you were absolutely right. That was on our slide. And the average life of a policy is about 7 years. So over the life of the policy, it's $1,500. And there's a couple of different commission models available. So it would depend on that as well. That's not bad for a 10-minute conversation.
I think it's a pretty good trade-off for a 10-minute conversation. It's definitely something that people should look into. Guys, I'm going to encourage you now, if there's any last questions you would like to ask of either Julianne, Gabrielle, or myself this morning, now is the chance to drop it either into our chat box or into the question and answer box for this morning, and we'll be able to answer those for you. One thing I will note, you can, at the end of today's session, we'll be sending out Gabrielle and Julianne's details for you. So you will have those to ask some direct questions. I will ask one that's just bounced in from our wonderful friend Anonymous. When providing a life insurance policy, are we providing advice? And if so, do they need PI cover to do this?
The type of advice that's being provided is general advice. That's what we authorise our brokers to provide. So you are providing general advice. You are not providing personal advice. You're also providing information, which is an even lower level to general advice when you're looking at the scale. In terms of PI cover, ALI Group has professional indemnity insurance cover, and that extends to covering our authorised reps when they are carrying out their activities under our authorisation. So the reason I point that out is that it's not PI insurance that will cover you for your credit activities. It covers you for the financial services activities. So it's not an extra cost to any of our authorised brokers. They don't have to expand their PI or anything like that.
Perfect. And I think I had that question asked of us last week up at FBAA's head office as well. So it is important to note when it comes to insurances what you are and aren't covered for. And I think a lot of brokers, they step into that insurance space for the first time and do wonder whether, hey, am I going to be protected if something goes a little left of field here? Not that it will, but it should, in the case it go a little left of field, will I be protected for doing this? And if a client were, and then this would be a follow-on to that, if a client should make a claim against a broker to say they don't believe they were sold the right insurance policy, they were sold an incorrect policy, and there is some sort of claim there, does that go through to ALI itself, and is that handled through your side of things, or is that something a broker would need to handle themselves?
No, we handle it through our IDR. And look, it's very rare for us to discover that a consumer has been told the incorrect information or the wrong information by their broker. But we do handle all of that. We don't just carve the broker out. We work with them as well. We'll ask them if they're aware of the client. Have they got any file notes, any information that we can use in investigating the complaint? But when a broker is operating under our authorisation, we are responsible for their activities. So the buck essentially stops with us, which is why training and ongoing supervision and monitoring and working the way we do with having our team of BDMs is so important.
Excellent. Guys, I guess there's a question I've got as well. Are you on board with all aggregators out there? So if you're not necessarily on an aggregation panel or somebody doesn't see ALI mentioned within their aggregators group, can the brokers still write business through you? Or is there an exception or a rule that they need to get from their aggregator or their potential license holder to be able to write insurance through ALI?
Gabrielle, that's yours.
Sure. So from our perspective, first of all, we're on the panel of the majority of aggregators. There are very few that we are not on the panel of, so this is not something that commonly comes up. We can also enter into direct agreements with someone, but it would be up to them to check their agreement with their aggregator to ensure that they can go outside of the panel, because there are some restrictions that aggregators have, and so that would be up to the broker to check with their aggregator if they can go out of panel.
I think it's also a good chance for that broker to say to their aggregators that they should get ALI on their panel. It should be something I think that every aggregator out there should be doing, and every broker out there really should be taking into account. If you are selling a home loan to someone, make sure that they're life insured, because you never know what's going to be around the corner. You don't know what's going to happen to somebody in the long run of things either. And knowing that their home loan is protected is probably one of the biggest offerings that you can give someone at a very minimal cost to them for doing it. And I think that's something that there's a lot of brokers that are on today's session have probably realised. There's a little light globe's kind of gone off up here somewhere. And we've got to take into consideration that if we had a crystal ball, I'd have Saturday night's lotto numbers, and I may share it with you and to the lovely people on this call. But
I don't believe you.
Well, oh no, I definitely think I would. Look, if I won $80 million, I'd give the industry a gift of at least $1 billion. I don't know what kind of party I'd put on, but it'd be a pretty big one. But it's something that you kind of sit back and think, I'd rather know that I'm not leaving all of this debt to my family than sort of, I mean, when you're in the grave, you're not going to think about it basically, but you don't want to have that thought in the back of your mind, 30 years into a mortgage, if something happened, what would happen to my family? How would they afford all of the bills that are left behind? So I think that's something that all of us need to really start thinking about as brokers to the industry, and as service providers that are out there as well. And, from my understanding, and I've had a long history now with ALI, it is a bloody simple process, guys. So everybody out there should be considering it, and you should be reaching out to your ALI BDMs, and also Gabrielle and Julianne. As I said before, the big thing being that, Gabby and Julianne will both give you their details, but you also have representatives in each state for ALI that you can reach out to. And they're more than happy to come out and take you for a cup of coffee. I just threw all of the ALI BDMs under a bus with that one. But they're happy to take you out for a coffee and a piece of cake and talk about the absolute benefits of dealing with ALI and the products and services that they can offer you and your clients. We do have half a question. Yep, you're right, Julianne.
Just a couple of thoughts. I guess for me, the reason that I am so passionate about what we do is that I don't believe that we should be making a decision for Australians. I believe that Australian borrowers need to be educated so they can make their own decisions. In a perfect world, everyone would have a dedicated financial advisor or financial planner, but that's not reality. And ultimately, Australia is an underinsured continent. We have a lot of people who have no insurance, who are at risk, and it's generally not because they've thought about it and they've considered it and they've understood it and they've made a conscious decision to not be covered. It's because they're just unaware. So for me, it's education and then giving them the opportunity to make the decision that suits them best.
Do you also see it, Julianne, as a fear of, and this is both at you and Gabrielle as well, do you see it as a fear of cost? Because I know I've spoken to people in the past about life insurance, and I've had a lot of people turn around and go, it's too expensive for what it is. but they've not actually got a quote or a costing for it.
Yeah, I think there is a general perception that it's very costly, but I think that as a human race, we just don't like to think about it sometimes. And so it's easy and convenient to say it's too expensive, I'm not going to pay for it.
The other thing that we really are proponents of is giving the customer some information and for them to make an informed decision. So you can't make an informed decision if you don't know what's available to you and how much it will cost you. And that flexibility question earlier, if someone sees need, they can take something better than nothing. So as you said, the cost should not be a barrier to taking some protection. And really, our brokers feel that their role is to highlight, you can take this, you're eligible, this is what you'd be protected against, and let's talk about how much you can afford to pay. So it shouldn't be a barrier.
Perfect. And look, guys, as I said, we are going to close off the questions now. I do want to thank Julianne and Gabrielle for, I've just had a quote put up then, cost is relevant to the benefit provided, 100% anonymous. We agree with you there. But Gabrielle and Julianne, thank you so much for your time this morning and the wonderful World Wide Web for its issues that it's given us. But
sorry about my challenges.
We have managed to overcome them, and we've had some brokers give us some feedback already to say it's been a great session for them today. Look, we'd like to continue these series as well, and hopefully over the Christmas break we'll have some more education series from ALI that'll pop up on the FBAA's YouTube channel as well, and really continue the conversation down the insurance path to make sure that you guys are out there giving the right information to your clients and giving them the best opportunity that's available to them as well. And we do want to make sure now that everybody that is on this call is capable of going out there and selling an ALI product, or is comfortable enough to be able to talk to their clients about it as well. And that's where your BDMs can help you have those conversations and sit down and have those chats with your BDMs from ALI, that they will be able to step through how to have the harder conversations with your people, because it isn't easy talking to people about life insurance and having their life insured. So that's where the BDMs from ALI are incredibly trained in having those conversations, as much as Gabrielle and Julianne are as well. So ladies, I do thank you for your time this morning. As I said to the audience, we will be putting the webinar up on the FBAA YouTube channel in due course. So guys, it will pop up there shortly if you do want to refresh yourself on anything that has been discussed today. We'll also be sending through an email with Julianne and Gabrielle's contact details on email should you require any further information. As I said, speak to your BDMs. We all rock and we all need the work to do. There will be a CPD code that will be provided to you very shortly with one CPD hour for today's session. And you all know that I'm a fan of shameless promotion. So guys, make sure that you are registered for the FBAA National Industry Conference on the 11th of March in 2022. It was 2021, bloody COVID. But the crew from ALI will be there. I've just thrown them under a bus for that one too. But let's face it, we should all be out of lockdown by then and in need of a drink. Actually, I also meant to say they're we do need educational days with great speakers, and we will drink at the gala dinner afterwards. So guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We are pleased to have ALI as one of the FBAA's national sponsors. Get in touch with them and their crew that is out there, and if we can be of any further assistance, please let us all know.
Thanks, Leah.
Thanks for having us.
Not a problem. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.